Good afternoon, this is Dale. I'm giving you a devotional for this week for our church, and I just wanted to share a little bit with you about spiritual warfare. I think as we go into this new year, we're going to be presented with new challenges maybe that we haven't had before, and it's really important that we stay on top of ourselves spiritually so that we can recognize spiritual warfare when it's occurring, and it occurs all the time. Oftentimes we just don't even recognize it. And as a young boy, my mom told me about spiritual warfare pretty much in this one phrase that she would frequently tell me when I would get scared or fearful. She would tell me, you know, the devil, he can't hurt you. There's nothing he can do to harm you. All he can do is scare you. And that's kind of an interesting thought. And I had a case one time with a missionary, a psychiatric case with a missionary, and that principle proved true. In this case, now I'm going to not share the exact case because I want to protect this missionary's identity. But in this instance, I met this missionary in the psychiatric unit, and he told me, he said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't stop worrying and shaking. My insides feel like they're made of jello. And he had been hospitalized for anxiety, and he was not eating well. He was not sleeping well. He had a lot of worry going on. And what was happening for him is he was a pretty seasoned missionary, very respected. In fact, I kind of knew of him and already had a lot of admiration for him. Very successful on his mission field. But this emotional issues, this anxiety has taken him out of the ministry. And we discussed his spiritual life on several occasions, and everything seemed to be right except for one area. He had been cursed by a local bruja, B-R-U-J-A, and bruja is Spanish for witch. And the witch had performed a ceremony to bring Christ's influence down among her people. See, her home was within sight of the church that he had established in that community, and he saw her performing her brujeria during one of his sermons in his church. So you can imagine he is preaching, he looks out the window, and across there he sees the neighborhood witch performing a ceremony to curse him. So somehow this witch's power had gotten to him, and he began to worry. He's doubting God's ability to protect him from such brujeria. And we prayed at every session, asking God to protect him and show us what he wanted us to do. And you know, God is faithful. If we ask him, he will tell us answers. So one time while praying, the missionary stopped praying, and he said, "That's it." And a big smile came across his face, and he said, "I now know what's been going on." And he proceeded to tell me he had heard a cryptic story that a few of the church members told him about a service that the bruja held outside the church in the middle of the night. And from that point on, that missionary became much stronger and much less anxious. He began to talk about, I'm going to take that church back from the witch. And within 2 weeks after this epiphany, he was discharged and he returned to the mission field. So, about a month later, I received a terrific letter of explanation and testimony from this guy. And what had happened is when he returned back to his church, he told his congregation about his feelings about this bruja and told her he was determined to not let her win this spiritual battle. And during prayer with his congregation, it was revealed to them that they should dig in the northwest corner just outside the church. several members and the missionary went outside and started digging. After a bit, they found a talisman buried there. Now, a talisman is something that people use to curse people with. It's like a little pendant or something like that. So they went out and started digging, and they found this talisman buried there. And one of the members who used to be into brujeria, witchcraft, identified the object as something that was used to curse people. So the missionary promptly continued the service where the talisman was burned in a fire. In that letter, he proceeded to tell me how he felt as if there was a new freedom in his church after that. However, what I think was most interesting is that he wrote me this towards the end of his letter. I was foolish to believe that Satan has any power over me in the church. I was fighting to defeat the devil, and I had no need to do so. A talisman is just that, a talisman. It has no power or ability to hurt me. I learned from my experience that I don't need to fight. I just need to relax and let God fight for me. I was being a missionary under my own power. Now Jesus is running my mission field. And not everybody that I've helped has turned out so positive. Not everybody gets help from me or from the Holy Spirit or from somebody else. Sometimes people continue to be oppressed. But this experience was a real faith builder for me. And I kind of hope it is for you too. Because we don't need to fear. We just need to trust God and count on His faithfulness. Satan can't do anything except to try to scare you and intimidate you. His power lies in his ability to spread fear and doubt. Satan is full of bluff, and he has no power over us. As long as we stay connected to God's Holy Spirit, we are victorious. There's a verse that I read across that kind of speaks about this. And it's in Jeremiah 10:5. And in Jeremiah 10:5, it says this, and I'm using the New Living Translation. Their gods are like helpless scarecrows in a cucumber field. That's right, I said that, a cucumber field. Their gods are like helpless scarecrows in a cucumber field. They cannot speak, and they need to be carried because they cannot walk. Do not be afraid of such gods, for they can neither harm you nor do any good. That is such a powerful statement. That last sentence in particular. Do not be afraid of such gods, for they can neither harm you nor do any good. I just think that is such an amazing verse when we think about our need to be spiritually aware. So I'm hoping that this story, this story about this missionary who is anxious and learned to trust Jesus and has Jesus running his mission field, is an encouragement to you. This next year, 2022, let's have Jesus run our church. Let's not do this in our own power. Let's not do this in our own strength. Let's have Jesus do it for us. All we got to do is trust Him. Well, thank you so much for letting me speak with you today, and I'll see you in church Sunday. Bye.